Well, I'm going to try and do the 100 hour on my MY19 Moster 185. Really haven't had too many problems with it at all. I did rebuild the carb earlier at about 50 hours, mostly out of boredom, so I'm not going to do the carb at this point, but got the kit from Sky Sports minus the carb pieces and the piston wrist pin that was out of stock, and so I'll take some pictures along the way here and take some video if there's anything interesting other than my messy garage and my portable workbench set up here. So got the frame off and airbox off, and I bought a compression tester, so I'm going to check it before I tear it down and then after, just to first of all see if it's in the right range of about somewhere looks like what I read, 180 to 200 psi before and after, and make sure I get the rings seated properly when I do that. But more to come. Alright, I got everything off the outside now, and show very good, but I got to take this pulley off. I'm going to do the bearings on those. I got a replacement belt to put on also, and I'll pull the head off and cylinder off. I haven't never had those off yet since I bought it, so we'll get a look at what the piston rings and head look like. It came with the new oil seats for the crankshaft, but I guess you have to drill a hole in this clutch cover to be able to get there and release that, and I don't really want to do that. It's not an awesome design, so I may leave the oil seats alone and just watch both sides of the crank and make sure it never starts leaking before I ruin that cover. We pre-order this cover sometime and then maybe do it again, but then pull the carb off and get a look at the reed valves and so forth after that. Yeah, got the belt off, and yeah, right at 100 hours on this, and doesn't look too bad. Flip the thing around, it's not bridging or cracking anywhere, so it's good. Still in very good shape. Probably could just let it run, but ordered one anyway, so just pull off the pulley next and see what I can do about the bearings. And for those of you that haven't watched all the videos, to get this big pulley out, you just loosen this bolt right back here behind the pulley, loosen this Allen bolt right here, then I just put the let me show you, the tension adjuster key back in the front of the pulley and wiggle it back and forth and just pull it straight out. So don't see any damage. Seems to be a little bit of oil in here, so forth, but it's out. The shim looks good, still just dirty. So gotta have the C-clamp pliers, get this retainer ring out, be able to replace the bearings. The Scout guys, their videos are tremendous for looking up how to do all this stuff. There he is. Okay, taking the recoil off, the only weird thing was these shims are kicked up out of place and bent, so I don't know. It was working just fine, unlike Reese's. Well, these exhaust springs are pain like always, but again, watching the Scout videos, I should just clip the safety wire and then wrap that around the end of the spring, and then use a big screwdriver against the back of the exhaust to pry and pop it off, and that worked way better than trying to use one of these damn things or something. So, all right, let's see if I can get these loose now, and getting close to having it tore down. Just looking over the exhaust, I may be fortunate that I don't see any hairline cracks, and 100 hours in, that seems like a big win. I'll look it over a little more thoroughly later to be sure, but take it. Well, I was working on this maniacal bronze bushing. I got it off, but I did heat it up with a heat gun first. And if you're a woodworker, I'm sorry because I'm destroying this, but I put this on in a vise and then just go one side with the chisel, other side with the chisel, and then once it opens up far enough, this bigger screwdriver in there and twist. But you know, what a pain in the butt. But anyway, that's done. Just got to clean up the head, you know, after I take that off, and I'll start tearing the exhaust apart here in a little bit. Well, we get the head bolts off. I haven't had this head off yet, so there goes the washers, of course. Been running avgas 90% of the time. A little bit of deposits. Top of the piston. Not too bad, I guess. But then again, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. I get this apart. Definitely got deposits. From some of the reading I've done, you know, this standing might suggest that my rings were starting to let a little blow by. Wrist pin doesn't look too bad, other than maybe discoloration. And bearing on the connecting rod doesn't appear to have any heat damage or damage on it either. So. Well, got the stuff all apart. Actually, piston looks pretty good. Pretty clean. And same with the head. Had lead deposits, but not too bad. Just Scotch-Brite and WD-40 is really all I did. So, yeah, probably start reassembling some of the stuff, the cylinder, crankshaft, bearing, that kind of stuff. See how that goes. See how many parts I have left when I'm done. Yeah, working on these engine mounts now, and supposedly you can take these out by hand, and 3 of them broke loose, no problem, but then this one wouldn't. Well, of course, I had forgotten to take the nut off the backside, so crank it away. But yeah, I guess so you just take these off, short on the cylinder side, long on the opposite side, carb side, and then transfer these safety straps across, and then just screw these 2 in hand tight, and then should be done with that. Okay, so working on the bearings for the prop hub, which is recommended to switch as well too, but I use a heat gun, and well, first I took the big C-clip out, left it in there. So this is in here with the bearings. Use the heat gun to heat up the hub, and again, just like in the Scott video, set up 2 pieces of wood, prop this up on, and push that whole assembly out, the eccentric. And then again, like the Scott video, I just turned this over then between the 2 pieces of wood and propped it up on the bearings, and then used my 12mm socket to pound the eccentric but out of the bearings, between the 2 bearings and this spacer. Came out. Lesson I learned here. Thought it'd be cute and use this to pound it out of the hub originally, and then that damn thing got stuck. So don't do that. But now, supposedly freeze the eccentric for an hour or two, heat up the inside of the new bearings, and they should slide right on. So we'll try that. Well, the next thing while the eccentric is in the freezer is change my starter rope out, and my fingers go into the flywheel. But I've also got a shim problem here. They're kicked out to the side, so I'll see if I want to take this clip off. I can flip them over and they'll reseat okay, and we'll have to see how that does. But I got the rope on. That didn't seem too bad. We'll see. First time freaking knots pull out when I'm trying to start it. New fingers on. Everything looks okay. Okay, next project while the eccentric is freezing is new reed valve pedals. So, and gaskets on each side of the spacer. Shouldn't be too difficult. I know they mentioned you have to get the pedals lined up with the slant cut on the metal pieces themselves, and then make sure that the pedals are centered when you put them on. So you don't over tighten it until you do that. All right, I'm getting down to a couple things. I've got the main engine back together. Got the bearings actually replaced and got them back together inside the prop hub. And what I got left is I'm trying to replace the silencer material in the silencer here. So punch out the centers of each rivet after I remove this from the exhaust itself, and then drill out each rivet, pull it apart, wrap the new silencer material in, and we'll see. We'll see what it looks like after I take it out, if it was even necessary. Well, I'm still working on this exhaust. It's actually kind of a little bit of a bear. Get the pins punched down using this bit, but as I drill, sometimes the rivet starts spinning, so then I'm having to shove this chisel under to hold it so I can finish drilling out. So I'll get it down, I'll pull it apart, we'll see what the silencer material looks like. Well, new problem. The tube, after I got this out, that the silencing material has to wrap around is rusted out and disintegrated. So I'm gonna find out if I can replace just this cap end that's got that tube or not. So that's kind of a bastard. I've not found any other problems so far, but actually it's funny, this color, this rusty color, is exactly the color that that shows up on my prop. If you'll see that right there. I just assumed it was just carbon, but I'm gonna make the jump to that's actually the rust blowing out of the silencer. So I thought this cap was supposed to come off too, but man, that sealant they used is incredible. It was a real bear to get the other end off. So anyway, looks like I may have to order some parts. Hope I don't have to replace the whole damn silencer. We shall see. Well, there's the remnants of my I think it's MP157, the silencer tube that goes through the middle of the silencer material. So I didn't remember reading anything about how badly these could rust out. I'm right at 100 hours, and Sky Sports to the rescue. Thanks, guys. Through my teardown, this is the only really problem I've run into. So once that comes in, I'll put the new material in around that tube, and rivet it to the carbon fiber silencer cover, and put her back together. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Didn't expect to run into that. Okay, so I got my replacement for the inner silencer component, and I noticed when I started putting it back together that it seemed like my recoil was too loose. And what I figured out by watching another video, because I never paid attention to it, was the replacement rope they send you is not necessarily specific to the length that you need. So I fully extended this rope and held the new one up next to it, and had about that much extra compared to what I had before. So yeah, magically I thought I didn't wind the recoil correctly, but the tension is good. So pay attention to the length of the rope when you replace it on the recoil, on the flash starter. Okay, so just one more look at the silencer material that I removed at 100 hours and what remained of the inner core of the silencer versus the new that came with. So I guess my understanding is you put some high temperature sealant around the inside here, and then roll the silencer material around it and tuck it into the sealant as a way to kind of hold it, and then push it into the outer covering, and you can kind of see the remaining sealant on the edge here from when I removed it before. I don't want to scrape that off with a razor blade because it's carbon fiber. And once you slide that on, you had to have marks, on your prior unit to line this up. And I'll do my best to line it up with the new core, and there's marks on this as well to make sure it's lined up when you slide them back together before you actually install the rivets on the top and on the base. Then you got a gasket you don't want to forget when you fasten that with the double nuts back onto the exhaust. So anyway, just thought I'd show the before and after on the materials at 100 hours. Okay, another thing I figured out just sort of piecing it together here. Of course, with the new inner core, I've got one rivet hole that doesn't line up, but I thought, so these rivets here came with the material. However, they're too long. They hit the inner core. Just by accident, I ordered the extra rivets from Sky Sports, not realizing it came with some, but actually those are the right depth of rivets. So that's something to keep in mind as well too. And maybe on the other end here, let me turn this towards the light. We don't have as much of a bevel, but I suspect, you can see it comes almost all the way to the core. And then when this is in there around that core, it's probably going to hit on that end too. So can't use the standard rivets that come with material replacement kit. Well, and you can maybe see you got the sealant up in there that this will lock down to, and I suspect it even holds this material a little bit rolled on, and just twisting the silencer cover on top of that, and then I'll seal it and line up and put this back on it and try to make sure I get it facing the right direction. But okay, the silencer. This was a little bit about like me trying to put a new tent back in the bag it came in. Make sure before you put this all together that this end actually fits on the end of the inner core. And if it doesn't, shape it so that it does, because I had it all together and it was a little bit malformed, and so this would not twist on there. And monkeyed with it for a while, ended up pulling it all back apart. So I look like a kindergartner with modeling clay or watercolors, as I made a huge mess with the sealant, taking this apart, putting it back together. But check and make sure that this fits on the inner core before you put any of this back together. Be also careful about how much you twist this tube to put it on, because it ends up binding up the bottom end and cinching it down tight to where you can't even get this in here to get it over the inner core. And just for fun, I tested to make sure this fit in the bracket over there on the, you know, on the attachment. And that's my next problem, is one of these bolts is a little bit tipped out. So I got to try and either bend it in or slightly adjust the size of the hole so that this will fit differently than, you know, how these old nuts were fit. So anyway, the fun continues with the silencer. All right, so as I mentioned, the shorter rivets fit. All the holes line up, but again, since I ordered this new core, the hole spacings aren't exactly the same as the old core that was in here. So if 3 of my 4 holes line up, I've got one here that does not. So after I set the rest of the rivets, I suppose my only option is to drill that out and hope that the rivet expands enough to hold. And I'll probably try and mark it with cross check or something so that I can make sure that it doesn't work loose over time. Okay, for the love of God, I've got a large rivet gun. I literally had to stand on the bastard to get these to pop. Holy hell, they shouldn't give out for anything, but keep that in mind. If you don't have I don't know if these are stainless or what, but it takes a lot of leverage to get these rivets to pop. I had the one hole that, yeah, it wasn't quite aligned, but I just partially drilled it out carefully, just enough that I could get the rivet inserted, and it's all together. So now I just have this problem of the bolts not aligning quite here. They're very close. So I'll see what I can gingerly do to get that to happen without messing the threads up. All right, I got it to go. I just took same wood blocks I used for the big pulley and just put it on this bolt and just gently tapped. It took me 2 or 3 tries to just move that bolt slightly, and then now it'll go in. So I took it back off, get the gasket on it, and go from there. All right, well, it's on there. I cross-checked them just because I don't trust myself. Carb's on. I need to put the new belt on, tension it, just because I'm an idiot. I primed it and pulled it the other night, and it started up just fine. So I know my vac port is not backwards on the base here, which I've also done in the past. So get the belt on and tension that, and then the air box on it. I know I need to retorque the head yet, but yeah, maybe later tonight we'll give her a spin. At least start it. Weather sucks, so I can't fly it, but go from there. All right, I got a big old mess down here, but everything's together. Well, see if it runs in a little bit.